Thanks, man. Let's talk about it when we go live. If you're ready, let's do it live.
Let's do it. Push the button.
Okay, awesome. Hello and welcome to the 60-second episode of NEOHUMAN podcast. I'm Agah Bahari, ethologist on Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow this show on liveinlimbo.com, iTunes, YouTube, and BitChute. And with me, I have the pleasure of having the one and only John McAfee. Welcome to NEOHUMAN podcast, John.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolute pleasure. Why don't we start with
I'm gonna be doing tequila shooters.
Oh, fantastic!
With wine chasers while we're doing this, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
No disrespect whatsoever.
No,
but
none
it is.
Taken.
It's late evening for me. I'm in a part of the world where it's late. And a man, especially a man of 74, should be relaxing with some wine and tequila. So I'm doing that while we're talking.
Fantastic.
Please, no offense.
Fantastic. None taken. So which part of the world are you located now?
If I could tell you, I would.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting.
Nobody, or even our closest family has no clue where we are.
Okay, right on.
Not our children, Janice's brothers and sisters. Nobody knows where we are.
Is this due to the problems with the government? And I'm saying it because of the tweet that I saw you sending today, which I want to mention for our audience because it gives a very good context about where you stand perspective-wise and worldview-wise with respect to government. That you have said, I am at war with my government. It was intended to represent this great nation of profound beauty, bordered by two vast and different oceans, a nation which nourished and nurtured me. Instead, it is a parasite on the very precious thing that it was intended to watch over.
Yeah, well, no, it's no secret. I've been at war with the U.S. government. I mean, we've been on the run from the U.S. government since January of 2019, when the IRS convened a grand jury to charge Janice and I with tax fraud. Now, it's also no secret I have not paid taxes for 10 years. I refuse. I will not ever pay taxes again. Taxation is theft. We didn't have it prior to 1913 in America. And America was, at that time, the industrial giant of the world with no taxes. People go, how do we fund the government? Do some research, people. Taxation has merely made us go from an industrial giant to a country that manufactures nothing anymore other than war machines. And what's going to happen when someone kicks our ass once? And someone will. So we have got to straighten up. And taxation is theft, and it's killing us. So I don't pay it. Now, for 8 years, they left me alone. Well, I've already paid $50 million, over $50 million in taxes in my life. I promise you, people, I have not received $50 million in services. So I'm not paying anymore. Now, 2 years ago, I started speaking on the national stage about you don't want to pay taxes either? Use privacy coins like Monero and distributed exchanges, and no one will ever know what your income or expenses are. Now, I live in a community of tens of thousands of people around the world, many of them crypto leaders like Brock Pierce who do not use cash. We don't use fiat currency. When I take a job, if you can't pay me in crypto, then I'm not working for you. Yeah. And if I want to buy something and you won't sell it to me in crypto, then I don't need it. Because there's nothing you can't buy: houses, cars, clothes, bulletproof vests, shoes, food. When we went silent, okay, so Janice and I, back to the story, we were chased all across the Caribbean. Finally, we got arrested in the Dominican Republic, who insisted we had to go back to America.
This is after Belize?
This was 7 months ago, my friend. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we were in jail in the Dominican Republic for 4 days. Finally, I got legal representation. And because we were arrested illegally, everybody knew this, but it didn't really matter to them because they're just going to ship me back to the States and it'll all be forgotten. No, I'm not letting it be forgotten. I got my lawyers to file a brief with the Supreme Court in the Dominican Republic demanding I simply get a hearing. Now they have to do that. They have to. As soon as the paper was filed, we got out of jail and went to the VIP lounge. They took us to the VIP lounge in the Santo Domingo. in the Dominican Republic, and we were served by people with white gloves, champagne and caviar, along with heads of state who happened to be visiting. Now, that shift simply because I refused to roll fucking over. And so I did. Now, that was in July. So now, so we went to the Bahamas first. After we took our boat to the Bahamas. The Bahamian government tried to arrest us. We found out about it in advance and left. Went to Cuba. We were there for a month and a half, and the Cuban government called Janice and I in and said, the United States government has demanded that we either return you to America or expel you from our country. And Ms. McAfee, we know you're a friend of Cuba. We're not going to return you to America. We know what would happen to you. But we do have to ask you to leave our country within 72 hours, which we did. 4 days at sea, sailed into the Dominican Republic, and were arrested before we even got into port and said, you have to go back to America. So on the airplane to London, this is after we got out of jail, I said, honey, we can't keep this up. We can't run forever. We have to go into hiding. So we did. In London, we got there on a weekend, so I knew, had it been a weekday, I would have gotten arrested. I know this, but it was a weekend. So the paperwork, the U.S. State Department has to file with the London, with the UK State Department. They have to get a court order. It takes days. So I knew we were safe. We spent one night in London, went underground, and no one knows where we are now.
Wow. And yet you're still running for president of the United States in 2020.
Absolutely. Sure, why not?
So what are the biggest obstacles you consider in front of this great country, otherwise great country, United States, that you would want to tackle? I know that you are very driven by disruption to the entire system, and that's very well understood considering your position. But what other obstacles or shortcomings or main obstacles and shortcomings do you consider coming from the government that you want to disrupt or change fundamentally?
Well, there's only one, and we have to change it, or we're all dead. And that is, we have to wake up to the fact that it doesn't matter who the president is, that our two-party system is a charade designed to keep us focused. And how do you get people focused and agitated? Well, you create sides. There are two sides. There's the left and there's the right. There's the right, there's the wrong. There's the liberal and there's the conservative. They're the gun owners and the gun haters. They're the social progressives and the conservative take care of yourselves. Well, there's plenty of shit there to create a tension between two groups of people pretty much evenly divided, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that was perfect. Whoever played that out and made that happen, brilliant. And we know who they were. It's the CIA. The CIA controls America, people. If you think otherwise, then you're not thinking. I mean, who controls the information flow? And who, because first of all, the CIA calls presidents transients. I mean, they're there for 4 years, 8 max, and they're gone. And we have to train another new one. They don't bother training anymore. They just control them through information flow. Let me give you an example. The Second Gulf War. The CIA king, I don't know what they called themselves, probably not emperor of Middle East, whoever that may have been, decided that he wanted Iraq removed as a power. Apparently they weren't playing according to the plan. And so he called Washington and said, I want them bombed into oblivion. I want it done tomorrow. Are we clear? It's fucking with my plans. So Washington, their job is to make sure all of their kings and emperors and princes around the world are productive in doing what they want. He says, okay, all right, Tim, Larry, we have to bomb Iraq tomorrow. You know the president, make it happen, and you get the team, the Congress team together and let them know what's happening. And the guys go, okay, do we have free reign? Yes, do what you have to do. They walked into the president's office and said, Mr. President, I regret to tell you, please, Mr. President, sit down. There's a matter of the gravest. both national and international urgency that we must make you aware of. Iraq has nuclear weapons and missile capabilities capable
WMD.
of, pardon?
WMDs.
Right.
Yep.
Nuclear weapons and missile capabilities capable of delivering them to our closest ally, England. And, sir, we have news that perhaps as soon as tomorrow, that there might be a nuclear blast over London. Now, sir, it's not our job to advise you. No, we are simply here to inform you about the facts of life. And I'm sorry. Now, what choice did Bush have?
Right.
None.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, sir, again, if something is not done to stop them by tomorrow, it will be too late. 4 hours later, our stealth bombers eradicated the Iraqi military and leveled a bunch of Baghdad. And in the next few months, bombed them into the Stone Age like the CIA prince or whoever he's called of the Middle East wanted. This is how it works, people. And you don't even have to lie. You can tell the truth. And by the way, we all knew there were no nuclear weapons in Iraq. The American people knew. Certainly everybody in Europe knew, and all the Middle East knew. Who didn't know? The president and Congress, because they were briefed by the people who knew, the CIA. So this is how it works. President's got no power. It doesn't matter if Trump or Hillary Clinton or a derelict from the street or your pet dog is elected president. Nothing will change in this country. And if you don't want to accept these words, I mean, if you're over 21 and have lived through more than one election, you will have noticed one thing. Nothing in your life changed. No more or less beer in the refrigerator. Your wife is still with you, still got your job. Nothing changes in your life when we change presidents. Can't you see this, people? And so my job is not to be elected because I don't want the job. No one should want that job if it has any sense. And yet presidents don't even know they're being manipulated. No, my job is to try to wake people up to the fact that those in power, both the puppets and the puppet masters, are standing on your shoulders. It is the fruits of your labor, your creativity, your work, the sweat of your brow that supports the consumption of this corrupt government. So all you got to do, people, is shrug. Step across the line into a world where we don't use money anymore. Good God, people, that's an unnecessary thing. Cryptocurrency. If you can't pay me in crypto, specifically Monero, then I'm not working for you. And if I can't buy something in crypto, then I don't need it. Because you can buy everything, cars, clothes. When we went to London, when we were deported, we went to a crypto-only hotel, a beautiful, big-ass hotel in London, right? Food, the service, the room, the cleaning, the phone calls, all with crypto.
Yeah, I want to talk about crypto, but before that, what you mentioned about the process leading to the Iraq war, it reminded me of the process that basically banks forced the president and the U.S. government to bail them out after 2009 crash. Hank Paulson and Bernanke going to the president's office and demanding the bailout, saying that if we don't get this amount of money, the entire economy of the world is going to collapse within a day.
Well, yeah. Well, keep in mind, presidents don't just have one puppet master. They got 1,000 strings that control them. The Fed is one of those. So the Secret Service is one of those. The military covert intelligence is one. The CIA is the big one. No, presidents have thousands of strings. The Fed is one of those, and that was the Fed going, okay, bail these bastards out. It's not my interest for this to be happening.
Are these strings ultimately coming from a unified kind of a big picture, or no? They're just.
I wish it was. Wouldn't that be an easy solution?
Right.
Let's just go remove that motherfucker wherever. No, it's not. It is a totalitarian, distributed system, not decentralized, but distributed. And so, Who the fuck knows who's at top? It varies. CIA is always number one or number two because they are the global intelligence agency of the world. And scary people, and they're the ones that'd be chasing me. And also, they were my biggest client for years, and I have good friends within the CIA. Even within the CIA, it's not a unified organism. It's broken into factions. I mean, the CIA is arranging with Paul Roll of the Bahamas to get me arrested so that I can be deported back to the States. And another branch of the CIA is calling me to tell me about it, which is how we got out of the country just before they came. And unfortunately, they didn't tell me about the Dominican Republic. We ended up in jail there. So, but this has been our life. We've been on the run for 7.5 years. 7.5, baby? Yes, 7.5 years. And during that time, we have been chased at 120 miles an hour on back roads of Arizona. People dressed in fake police uniforms storming our apartment complex in Portland, Oregon in 2013, September 2013. This has been our life. This is how we live, people. Why? Because I refuse to shut up.
Right, which is exactly what most people don't do, even with your situation and others like you, like with Assange, for example. A lot of people, without knowing much about what is going on, they were like, well, they must have done something wrong for being chased by the government because they just don't want to be involved in any of it. You know, it's just insane.
I mean, that's sheep think, right? Which is fine.
But they vote.
Yeah, okay. Well, fortunately, it doesn't matter who they elect, right? Because most of the sheep don't know what's happening. So, but at some point, the sheep have to be woken up if you're going to move camp, for example, or get them out of harm's way from hungry wolves. And when sheep get unsettled, crazy things happen. They panic. They start running in strange directions. The shepherds are at their wits' end trying to figure out how we're going to get these motherfuckers back into a safe place. So, no, that's what the CIA doesn't want. That's why the CIA refuses to allow change. They don't want a president. They let Obama go ahead, build Obamacare. They didn't give a shit. We'll tear it down with the next administration. And they did. It's gone. 4 years of that man's life and trillions of our dollars down the tubes. Trump wanted a wall between Mexico and the United States. That was almost 4 years ago. How much was built? 93 miles. 92 of those miles merely repaired the existing wall. Nothing changes. Do we understand, people? So stop worrying about that. Why do you care about things that don't matter? Who cares if a Republican or a Democrat? The problem is that you identify with a group. You are either a Democrat or a Republican. You either love guns or you hate guns. Well, who gives a shit? Does that mean you must align yourself with others who also think like you? God, what a horror of a world it would be if that was what everybody did. We would have violence in the streets. We would shoot each other from our automobiles, which we do sometimes.
Okay, in a lot of parts of the world, that's exactly what's happening, this tribalism.
Yes, well, but that's a regression of human society, culture, and the human spirit. People, stop identifying with groups. Stop wanting to belong. Stop wanting others to validate your feelings, thoughts, perceptions, and beliefs. Because if they need validating, they are not valid. Be yourself. Stand alone for one thing, the truth of your life as you see it, because there is no group that you will fit into. Nobody can fit into a group. We are unique individual spirits, genetically, fingerprint, voice print, in every fucking way, different from everybody else. And yet you want to goddamn belong. Belong to the YMCA and learn to swim better. Don't belong to some some collective cult, because that's what the political parties are. They're cults,
Right.
cults that says, yes, this is the truth. Guns are bad. Take them away from people. Or the other side, no, this is the truth. You have to fend for yourself in life. There is no magic button you get to push. If someone broke into your house and is holding a gun to your head and are raping your wife and you want it to stop, press that magic button that makes the police appear between you and them. It doesn't exist. It's a fallacy, a dream. Police aren't here to protect you. What do they ever protect? No, they're here to clean up the mess after the crime's been done. So, I don't know, both sides got valid points. But why don't you choose for you? Not based on fear or what your parents did or what they taught you at school or what's right, because nobody knows what's right in this chaos. So the problem is the belonging to political parties in our political system that's causing the fucking chaos.
I totally agree. And it's really interesting to me how this concept of delusion of objective reality keep coming up in this kind of a conversation, whether on this podcast or outside of it, that there is no such a thing as objective reality. There is no such a thing as objective truth or ethics and morality. It's just you on your own are responsible to find your own way.
That's it, because you were did anybody hold your hand coming into this world? I'm talking about through the womb. Yeah, you got into the world and some doctor slapped you, started breathing, and at some point you became a person. Okay, yes, but no, you were alone on this whole journey, and you're going to be alone when you leave. Listen, I'm 74. The doorway that I must exit from is, I'm sure, visible to me in some direction if I look hard enough. So I know when I leave here, no one's leaving with me.
Yeah. It's just the labels that they put on you. Like, I was born in Iran, and, you know, I was 1 second old, and automatically I was labeled as a Shia Muslim straight male Iranian. And good luck changing any of those. Some of them are punishable by death. Some of them you're alienated from your community and family. So I'm not saying that it's the worst in Iran or those countries. It's just the labels that I call them involuntary baggage that is being placed upon our shoulders, and we're forced to carry them for the rest of our lives.
Well, I mean, but listen, like, there's also benefits to those labels. I mean, let me say, for example, Shiite. One of the advantages to being a Shiite is your call to prayer is fucking beautiful compared to the rest of the Muslim world.
Right.
I mean, I know if you've heard it, I know you have, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is there a song of greater longing, of greater need, of greater depth than some of these calls to prayer sung out?
Yeah, the problem is for a lot of people who grew up in those societies, because that call and a lot of beautiful things about that culture, you know, like I love mosque architecture, or what you're saying, some certain music that are coming, call of prayer. But it took me many, many years and many psychedelic experiences to be able to split ideology away from the artistic value and, you know, just appreciation of the concept.
Yeah.
Because if you grow up there, you're being persecuted on so many different levels. Every aspect of that society has become hated by you.
Well, I have to differ, by the way, on the Muslim architecture and art. I think Muslim art stems from a negativity about what art can be. I mean, the shirt that you're wearing, well, that's representational of leaves to me. That's against the Muslim law, is it not?
Yes.
You cannot have representational art.
Absolutely.
No pictures of people, no pictures of scenes. No, it's got to be art that's purely abstract. That's good. But one of the things I miss is, and the art in the Muslim world is, I don't know, seeing the human form, for example, painted by people like Picasso. And, well, I mean, it's, to me, there's the difference in art. However, in music, good God, man, the Shia call to prayer, good Lord, that is heartrending and beautiful.
Have you heard any of the mornings of Shias? Because I'm writing a book about
Oh,
my life, and my life was changed completely for 2-3 years because of one dude with a microphone and a little bit of reverb singing those morning melodies. It resonates with you so much that you're being carried away with it.
I listen. I am so ignorant of Muslim culture. I have to admit it. That I know very little. I know the things that I like, that I've heard and seen, which is small. I haven't. I'd love to hear it though. And if after this, if you would send Janice
For sure.
a link to one of these, I promise you I will listen to it. All right.
And I think this is a good opportunity to say thanks to Janice for scheduling this interview as well.
Miss Janice, another thanks for scheduling this interview. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's the workhorse here, and without her, nothing would ever get done.
That's awesome. She's been very kind and consistent in responding.
She is. She's very good at responding, and she's on the ball.
I noticed last night I was looking at some of your information. You were born pretty much like 2 weeks after the end of World War II. And
Yes.
you were born in England. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
How has the world changed from the perspective of you since right after World War II to now? Because a lot of people are saying that we are moving beyond the order that was established after World War II, and things are being disrupted and being changed. I just want to experience this life that you've had from the perspective of the world that you've experienced.
Well, there have been two changes, both of them interlinked. Number one, in politics and government. I grew up. In 1950, I was 5 years old. 1960, when Dwight Eisenhower left office, I was 15. So my teen years were spent in 1950s America, where the land of opportunity, the land of possibility, the land where anyone can become anything if you're willing to bear the burden of who you are with all of the negatives and positives of that. Whether you're smart or dumb, black or white, and I admit back then, blacks and anything other than whites were disadvantaged. That didn't stop many black people from taking advantage of the land of opportunity, given the realities of who you are. So it was like growing up was something I wanted. It was so beautiful. Now, at the same time, it was kind of plastic. Women had their place in the kitchen. Men had their place in the workforce. If you went to a doctor, they all smoked cigarettes while examining.
Right.
And if you were hypertensive or something, they said, you need to smoke more. Try unfiltered Camels. You get far more nicotine. I am serious.
Right.
Doctors prescribe cigarettes. Okay.
People were also smoking on planes, right?
And he smoked everywhere, airplanes, everywhere except church. All right. And that was, that's because you're in church. You should not be distracted by anything that distracts you from God. But other than church, he smoked in fucking courthouses, courtrooms. Courtrooms had ashtrays. Judges smoked. It was like, it did have that aspect. And people go, that's kind of crazy. Well, yeah, but that's just what people believed back then.
Different world.
A different world. But in 1960, that all changed. When Eisenhower left office, you could feel something strange. The adults were unsettled. The teachers at school were unsettled. I mean, Eisenhower's exit speech was horrifying. I mean, one of the great U.S. presidents and one of the greatest generals of the past 5 centuries, the supreme Allied commander during World War II. I mean, the man had balls of steel and a mind as sharp as a tack. And when he left, he said, if you do not beware, the CIA will take from America every freedom that we were birthed with. And that's exactly what happened. We were not beware. The next president, John F. Kennedy, made it his goal after he'd been in office for a while. He realized, oh, Jesus, God, the CIA is ruling everything. Said, I'm going to dismantle the CIA and take its pieces and hand them out to other covert agencies. 1 month later, he was accidentally shot in the head in Dallas, Texas. His brother, Robert Kennedy, at the next election, ran for president under the banner, and he said, my main campaign promise is that if elected, I will dismantle the CIA. 1 month later, he was shot in the head.
Wow.
No president has ever challenged them since. So it doesn't matter who the president is, people. You have to wake up to the fact that our government has been co-opted by covert agencies. Why? Because it has become clear that information is the only true power in this world. I mean, you think bombs and battleships and stealth bombers are the power? No, they operate on information. The handlers operate them based on information given to them, and who owns the information? You might think it's Google, Facebook, Twitter. No, the CIA owns the real information.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you see this balance or relationship between CIA and big tech companies, considering how we are digitizing more and more aspects of our lives, and data represents the smallest fraction of information that we are gathering and analyzing and making sense out of?
Well, there's two levels of information. There's the babble of a world full of people who are babbling. And Google owns that. How does they get it? They have spiders. They have these bots that just float around all over the world. Oh, there's a new website. See what's there. Look at all the pages, gather it together. Now, that's called the surface web. There are three webs. There's the surface web, what Google can see, which is all websites, okay? News stories, which we gather from websites. Electronic data. Trivial shit, which while it may help us understand how Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, which he didn't, it's not going to help us very much in finding out what's in the mind of Iranian generals who might be planning an attack on U.S. soil. Google's not going to that. Neither is Facebook, neither is Twitter. So this is the realm of what's called the deep web. Now, deep web can be indexed for a bunch of reasons. Number one, it's either electronically organized, but you can't get into it without being a member. Like if you're a psychiatrist and you can prove you're a psychiatrist, you can get into psych.com. If you're not, you can't. Well, Google cannot be everything and therefore cannot see what's happening there. That's part of the deep web. The other part is the non-electronic deep web. I'm still calling it the web. That information is gleaned by people who kidnap lieutenants from Iran and take them to Guantanamo and torture them until they figure out. Pardon?
Old school. You're right.
Yeah. But that information, the value of that information, if you can validate it, we all know that under torture people will tell you anything, but a good operative might be able to get some truth. That information is of extreme value. It's the diamonds of information compared to what Google has, which is the sandbox of information. So those are our three levels: the surface, which Google has, the deep web and electronic, which people have been trying to index for years and can't, because you can't be a member of every secret thing in the world. And then the old school information. Yeah, I followed him to this address. He went in, changed clothes, came out in a disguise, and went north. that information. That's the old school stuff, all right? Or we tortured him for 9 weeks, and we kind of think this might be the truth, that information. The CIA controls all three. Google, you think the CIA does not have its thumbs in Google? Of course it does. It has its thumbs in any and every corporation that might be of value to it. The deep web, I promise you, if there is a private website, there is a CIA agent who has joined it, all right, with full credentials, even if it had to be made up. And the rest, the old school, only the CIA has that information. And that is information which is used to control presidents, congressmen, and those who allegedly are in power, but they're not. We're living in an information age. And if you're talking about international relations, which is the stage upon which we float and survive, then the only people who can advise you is the CIA. You want to know what someone's thinking? CIA will tell you. Problem is, they're going to tell you the truth that they want to tell you, and sometimes the lie, just like the Second Gulf War. Iraq has nuclear weapons. They're about to bomb England. Oh, really? Well, okay, I need to do something. So this is it. But even they require us, the people, to support them in what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying these are evil people. No. In some respects, I understand why they're doing what they're doing. Because presidents are transients. Do you think we elect a president who's the smartest, who knows the most about the Middle East, China, North Korea, and subtleties of Vietnam and its neighbor Cambodia, what's happening with the Dalai Lama in Tibet? Fuck no. So you have to rely on advisors. Who are your advisors? The people who know. The CIA, the only ones who know. This is our tragedy. So they look at these idiots, and they are, everyone, idiots in terms of the CIA agent that spent 50 years of his life studying the nuances of the Muslim religion, the political alliances stretching back into antiquity, the culture, the system of marriage and love and managing the emotional chaos of the human being. No, they know nothing of this shit, not just in the Middle East, but in China, in Nepal, and in the Philippines, Venezuela. And so these idiots come in and they run the country. No, the CIA's not going to let that happen. Fuck no. We got a plan that's been in place for 50 years. You are not fucking up that plan. Here's what you are allowed to do. Now, they don't tell this to the president. Of course not. Mr. President, you're a boss here. But no, you're not. You are a puppet, and you will do what we say. You just don't know it yet.
Would you say presidents are aware of this?
No, they're not aware of it. They have no clue. If they were, nobody. I mean, no, of course not. Do you think Bush was aware he was being manipulated by the CIA when they said Iraq's got nuclear weapons, bomb them? No.
Well, was he aware at the end of his 8 years of...
No. Listen, the CIA is too good. Too fucking good. No president knows this. I know this because the CIA was my first and largest customer and remained my customer for years. I have good friends within it. Thank God it is as splintered as any other organization in bureaucracy. I mean, one part of the CIA was trying to collect me in the Bahamas, and another part called me and said, they're coming for you at midnight tonight. Sure as hell, we left just before they came. They showed up, we were gone.
John, you're a cybersecurity legend. How well this country or individuals are taking care of their cybersecurity in this day and age?
We have none, people. We haven't had any for 10 years. People buy antivirus software. It's useless. It's useless. The world has changed. Nobody uses technology anymore. Social engineering is how things are hacked. Why should I go to the trouble of writing sophisticated software to break into your system when I can have a very clever neuro-linguistic programmer type dude sit out in the car and watch people come and go with badges and figure out who is the secretary of the CEO, who has everybody's password, of course. Is she married? Is she not? Doesn't matter. Because even if you're married, if the right person comes along, you will slip and perhaps make a mistake that you may regret later. But once you've slipped, you've slipped. And that bastard you slipped for over the next few months is going to find out everything about you. And pretty soon he's got everybody's passwords. She doesn't even know it because the first thing he does is plant software on her phone while she's sleeping after he has loved her into somnambulance. He's got access to your phone. Your phone is tapped. Everybody's listening and watching. Pretty soon, we're in. Why bother spending 2 years writing sophisticated software when I can fuck a secretary?
And this is happening in the United States and in China and in Japan and in Europe and all over the place.
It's happening all over the world, wherever there are men and women. This is the oldest trick and game in the world, my friend. Boy meets girl. The problem is, do we always know where the girl came from? Is she being paid to be with you? And then people in my position, I have to think of that, right? So.
Amazing.
Okay, time for one more question, my friend.
Okay, let me ask you the last question that I ask all my guests then, that if you come across an intelligent alien from a different civilization, what would you say is the worst thing humanity has done? And what would you say is our greatest achievement?
I'm telling this to the alien?
Sure. As a representative of the human race.
I don't think I'd tell it jack shit, because if you can't trust your own species, how the hell can you trust an alien? I mean, I'm being honest with you now. The best thing you can ever do is tell nobody anything, right? You don't know who they are. No, I would fill his mind with disinformation. I would go, we are a peaceful race. We are unarmed. We have no weapons of any kind. We eat fruit. We don't kill animals. And only fruit that's fallen off of trees. We live in utter peace. No one has ever struck another human being or harmed them in any. I'll be telling shit like that. Meanwhile, thinking, how do I get my data back home about what I'm trying to find out about this mofo? The world is a dangerous place. I would anticipate that the universe outside our Earth is equally as dangerous, and I would look upon that alien with the utmost distrust. Now, if it were human-like and female and had a really beautiful ass, I might also explain that the way that we show our peace is by something we call making love. And if you'll please get undressed, I will show you how we do that. But beyond that, there'll be no information best. All right. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure.
Okay.